Man, with the spaghetti straps, you gonna have to put on a blouse or top or something, because the judge not gonna, they're gonna kick you out.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will be starting momentarily with the young lady on the iPhone. Please put on a jacket or a shirt, please. Thank you. You're muted and I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Ma'am, we're still in a court setting. That is not appropriate for court, is what she's trying to say. You would have to put on a jacket or a blouse on top of that tank. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Grace.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Who is at the top?
So
So
I'm Attorney
I'm
Reddick. You
attorney
have
Reddick. You have
Prosecutor
prosecutor
McCockett.
McCockett.
I'm the one that's actually dealing with the case that involves your mom. There's a slight echo. I'm not sure why. What you want to know, Miss Miranda?
Who's at the top with the shirt? Who was that?
We don't know. We're going to have a lot of people on for different cases. It's not just your
Oh,
mom's case today. It's going to be about 18 other cases. You have any other questions before we start? Okay. Make sure you mute your phone because when other people get on, yours may start an echo. Will you want to say something on behalf of your mom or you going to be okay?
no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm just here.
Okay, thank you. Anna, do you want to speak with the judge about Miss Jones offline? Actually, Miss Jones and Mr. Johnson offline, or do you want to do it in a regular setting?
I don't know.
It's Quinetta Jones and Kalan Johnson.
I don't have a Johnson.
Who else is the other PD with you?
She doesn't have a Johnson either. It's Aya Bader. I think she's on. There she is.
I don't think I don't have a Johnson.
Johnson is a company. He talked to Miss McLeod, Maureen McLeod. He's a company.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I would love to talk about Miss Jones. Yeah.
Which I'm open to whatever you want to do from my reading of it in her history.
I was gonna send a social worker and start there
Okay,
because my understanding is that she's just refusing to come out. So
makes sense. It's in line with
yeah.
everything. Okay.
And it's not the first time. It's been a few times that
This year alone, I know.
she's been struggling. So I'm gonna see if our social worker can help.
Okay. That was the only two I identified that I was concerned about.
Yeah. That's right. He is a conflict. That's right.
I didn't know that, but I could see how it could happen.
Okay. Miss Bridgewater, can you hear me?
I can, Your Honor. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Boy, it took a long time to get on. Okay. Let me see. Fulton County. Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Lal, and we are going to begin with our misdemeanor accusation calendar. Oops. I think I just froze up. Can you see me all right?
I can.
Okay, let me start again. This is the state expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County for today, September 7th, 2024. These are misdemeanor cases in which individuals who were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail, their cases have now been formally accused by the prosecutor, who is the Solicitor General of Fulton County. This would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer, where I will inform the defendant of their accusation number, the charges brought against them, to appoint counsel if necessary, and to also set a bond. Some of you may receive a signature bond in which you would not have to pay for the bond today, but you would have to comply with the conditions of the bond in order to make sure that it does not get revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Those who do not qualify for a signature bond today will receive either a surety bond or a cash bond, where you would have to pay for the bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. For those who have been accused of a misdemeanor offense or offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. All right, I see some individuals who are not courthouse staff who are appearing either on behalf of a defendant or you're a victim or a family member. Please mute your screen and switch your video off. You can unmute and start your video when you hear the defendant whose name who you want to address. But right now, Brooklyn and iPhone, those individuals, Galaxy, switch your videos off and mute your screen.
Your Honor, your reset date for your SAP calendar is September the 19th.
Okay, just like yesterday. Okay, great. All right. And our host is
Miss Grace, Judge.
yeah. Miss Grace, go ahead and switch off the videos of individuals who are not courthouse staff.
Yes, that's what I was about to do.
Thank you. All right. Quorum 2, who do we have, please? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, position number 4, Ms. Brown.
Okay. This is Mykera Nicole Brown, accused of simple battery from August 30th, 2024, in case number 24CR 6331Y. Ms. Brown, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Ms. Bader, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Okay. And we are going to hear your GCIC, Mr. Howard.
First, she's 17.
All right. No adult arrests?
Yeah, no adult or juvie arrest.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at the Vine City MARTA station. The defendant is accused of hitting a victim by the name of Clay in the face and causing injuries to the victim's face during a fight on the platform. Given that the defendant has no criminal history, the state's recommendation is a signature bond, no further contact with the victim by the name of Clay, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Ms. Bader, do you have any objection to the stay away?
For Marta, Your Honor, I do. That is the only way that she goes to school.
Is she currently under a suspension?
From Marta?
Yes.
She is, Your Honor, but they did inform her that she can appeal it.
Okay. Bond is going to be set at $1,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. I'll need a co-signer. Do we have a parent or a guardian who can co-sign?
She does, yes, Your Honor. Her mother would be able to do that.
The name?
Tamika, I believe it is Tameka is the first name, and the last name is Pless.
All right.
Excuse me, I'm her mother. I'm here.
Okay, go ahead and start your video.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I spell your name wrong, ma'am?
It's Tomeka.
All right.
Last name is Pless.
All right, we got that. Thank you. Micaiah Brown's bond is going to be set at 1,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. She is to have no further contact with the victim and to stay away from Marta property in accordance with any suspension she may have. So if she appeals it and if there's a stay, that's up to Marta. But if there is a current valid suspension, she cannot use Marta until the suspension is lifted. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and her next court date will be sent to her current mailing address. Thank you.
Okay, so what do I need to do? Just wait till she sign her bond?
Just 1 second. Mr. Howard, could you please send Ms. Pless the address or the email which, well, someone will reach out to you to sign the bond.
Okay,
All right. You're free to go, Ms. Pless.
thank you.
ACDC, go ahead next.
All right. Just 1 second. Nicole Harris. Nicole Harris. Miss Grace, could you place Nicole Harris in the waiting room, please? Thank you. ACDC, Deputy Francois, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you, Ms. Blunt. This is gonna be number 1, Judge, Ms.
Okay.
Allen. Thank you.
Kelly Allen, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you Kelly Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your charge is simple battery, family violence from April 5th, 2024. Your accusation is 24 CR 6328C. Miss Allen, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Miss Bader. And any priors? I think I heard 5 cycles.
No, I ain't saying
All right,
2000,
I'm going to let you talk.
2005 shoplifting dismissed.
Okay.
That's it.
Maybe I have your notes out of order then, Mr. Howard. So it's my bad. Sorry. Okay, 2005. Oh, that's what I wrote. 2005 case dismissed. Okay. Ms. Mokeke, what's the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. Just to put the facts on the record briefly, this incident occurred on April 5th, 2024. The defendant and Ms. Tara Thompson were engaged in a mutual physical altercation. Both parties do reside at the incident location. A witness by the name of Isaiah Thomas told officers that he did attempt to break up the fight, but he was unsure of who the primary aggressor was. Due to it being a mutual fight with no clear aggressor, arrest warrants were issued for both of the parties. Given the defendant's limited criminal history and the fact that officers weren't able to determine the primary aggressor, the state recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, no further violent contact with Tara Thomas, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right. Any objection, Ms. Bader?
No objection. Thank you.
Bond is set at 1,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. Ms. Allen, you can sign up for your bond today. You have to report to pretrial once a month. And you are to have no further violent contact with Tara Thompson. That means there cannot be any future physical or verbal altercations that involve the police. Otherwise, you lose your signature bond. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. If you change it, make sure you let the court know first time. No illegal drugs, no consumption of alcohol, and no possession of firearms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Francois, you have one more?
Yes, Judge, thank you. This is going to be number 16, Ms. Young.
Asia Young is accused of battery, family violence, and simple battery, family violence from September 5th of this year. Accusations 24 CR 633Y, 6337Y. Ms. Young, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Wright. Good morning, good afternoon, Ms. Wright.
Hello, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Howard, any
Fifth-
prior?
Fifth arrest. Last arrest was in May, Clayton County. Obstruction, felony, DUI, terroristic threats, public drunk, It's open. 2023 simple battery disorderly conduct dismissed.
And Miss Reddick, good afternoon. You're
Good
a rare
afternoon.
sighting today. Okay.
Yes, Judge, you're gonna have me and I think Miss Jackson a couple of times this month.
All right. Well, my lucky month then. Miss Reddick, what are we doing for this case?
Your Honor, this incident occurred at 2920 Sandy Circle in South Fulton. The alleged victims are a Miss Brooklyn Miranda, who is the victim's daughter, and Miss China Seals, who lives in the same location as the defendant. Officers responded to above location and heard what appeared to be a fight occurring inside. They spoke with Miss Miranda, who is present on Zoom, and she stated that her mother was intoxicated and aggressive, and that her and her mother got into an altercation. The officers noted visible swelling on Miss Miranda's face. They also met with a Miss China Seals, who was living in the location with the defendant and Miss Miranda. Miss Seals indicated that she was attacked in a vehicle when she was trying to get the defendant home from a gas station. Once they arrived at the home, the defendant then attacked her again. As stated, Your Honor, all parties lived together. We believe that there is a moderate risk of intimidation as the defendant and Miss Miranda are parent and child, as well as the victim, Miss Seals, lives in the location with the defendant. We're asking for a total bond of $2,000, $1,000 on each count. The victims have indicated to us that they do not have fear of the defendant and that the defendant has been doing better since this incident. Additionally, 1 day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond. And we would ask that the defendant do an alcohol drug evaluation screening, ADET.
Okay. And I can't remember how old was the daughter.
Both victims are adults.
Both are adults. Okay.
Yes.
And you said no further violent contact?
No further violent contact.
All right. Ms. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor. In speaking with the daughter, that's also my understanding that they want Miss Young back in the home. We do not object to the state's conditions. We would ask that the bond be turned into a signature bond. She retired from Delta, I believe back in March. She is due to start a job on Monday. There have been some issues, interpersonal issues between her daughter, her daughter's girlfriend. They're working on resolving it. My understanding is that Miss Seal is not going to be living there for very much longer. But Miss Young, like I said, she has very limited funds, being recently retired. She's starting a brand new job on Monday, and a signature bond would really help this family get back on their feet.
On the battery family violence, that's going to be 2,500. On the simple battery is 1,000. Her total bond is 3,500. Signature bond through pretrial services level 2.
Thank
She'll
you.
have to report to pretrial services twice a month. No further violent contact with Brooklyn, I think it was Hood, and
Miranda, Judge Brooklyn Miranda.
Brooklyn Miranda
Yes.
and China Seals. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. She may return to the 3251 Briarwood location, but if there's any future physical or verbal altercation with either victim, then her signature bond will be revoked and she will be back in jail. She's not to consume any alcohol and no illegal drugs and not possess any weapons or firearms. She will be subject to random screens by pretrial for alcohol and or illegal drugs. Within 15 days of being released, Ms. Young has to undergo a alcohol and drug evaluation with any qualified healthcare provider and submit herself to any treatment as required. Her next court date will be set to the Briarwood Boulevard location. Unless she changes address, then the clerk's office has to be the first folks who find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Judge Law. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position number
Sorry, position number
2.
2. Okay.
Mhm.
This is State versus Trey Alexander Arsenault, 24 CR 6329F, accused of simple assault from September 6, 2024. Mr. Arsenault, your case number is 24 CR. I'm sorry, I already set the case number. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be, is it Miss Wright or Miss Belair?
Neither one, Your Honor. He's a conflict.
Oh, okay. Right, we don't have conflict counsel. All right.
Simone,
No, we do.
Oh, that's Miss McLeod. All right, Miss McLeod.
Afternoon, Your Honor.
All right.
Yes. Who do
And
we have?
we have Mr. Trey Arsenault, and
Yes.
he's charged with simple assault from yesterday, case number ending in 6329F. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
fifth arrest, 2019 shoplifting dismissed, 2018 battery conviction, and he was arrested twice in 2011 for simple battery, Louisiana.
All right. Resident of Georgia?
I think he is.
Okay. Miss,
I'll look.
all right, Miss Mulcahy?
Yes, a resident of Georgia, Your Honor. He tells me he's been living here pretty much all his life, but he was born in Louisiana.
I see. All right, thank you. Miss Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at 1296 Murphy Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Aisha Sneeze, who works at the leasing office of the incident location. The defendant is a resident at the location. The defendant became upset because he couldn't pick up his mail at the time because the leasing office was closed for lunch. So in response, he came into the leasing office yelling and cursing at the victim, walked behind her desk, and then proceeded to raise a hammer as if he was going to hit her. When the victim stated that she would call the police, the defendant left while he continued to yell and curse on his way out of the office. The incident was also witnessed by Lorraine Johnson, and there is video footage that shows the defendant leaving the leasing office with the hammer in hand. Our office has spoken with Ms. Sneeze, who states that she's worked at that leasing office for 2 years, and the defendant, is known for his aggressive behavior with the staff. Her and the staff are in fear of the defendant, and she stated that after this incident, her office has placed the defendant under eviction, and she said that she would like no further contact and, of course, for the defendant to stay away. The state's recommendation, based on the concerning nature of these allegations, is a $1,500 surety bond. There is a risk for some intimidation here, as this defendant has been aggressive with these staff members before. No further contact with the victim or employees of that leasing office. Stay away from the incident location. Anger awareness, as well as a one-time police escort to retrieve all of his belongings. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and I would ask the court to sound for Miss Aisha Sneeze.
Miss Sneeze? All right. Miss McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 31 years old. He has been living in this complex for some time. He denies the allegations, Your Honor. He said he was there to pick up his mail, and he actually had the hammer in his hand because he had been doing some work with the hammer. He says that he raised his hand up, but not to intimidate or to strike anyone. He just was talking with his hands, and the hammer was in his hand. But he totally denies that he either threatened the alleged victim or that he had any intent of harming her. And I believe the warrant even says that he was there before because he was expecting a package. And so he was just looking for the package that he was expecting. I would ask the court to consider giving my client a signature bond through the jail. He is gainfully employed. He lives in Atlanta, Your Honor, and he does have a lease at these premises. Of course, I imagine they're within their right to ask him to leave, but to say he should only just have a one-time visit to pick up his belongings seem a bit much, considering that he does have a legitimate lease. So he should have the opportunity to move out and some time to do so. This dispute is not enough to just say someone should be summarily evicted from an apartment that they're leasing and for which they're paying.
Well,
So I would definitely ask.
He's not being
I'm sorry,
evicted by me. He's not being evicted by me. So,
okay.
But he is going to stay away. And his bond is going to be set at 2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. No further contact with Aisha's niece. No violent contact with the staff at this apartment complex. To stay away from the entire apartment complex at 1296 Murphy Avenue in Southwest Atlanta. He's allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to this apartment to retrieve his belongings. Are there any other occupants in this apartment? Ms. McLeod, do you know if there are any other occupants in this apartment?
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor. I did believe my client said he lived there by himself.
All right. Courtroom 2, please.
Mr. Arsenault, do you have a roommate?
No, but I do have a question. No, I don't have a roommate, but I do have a question. So when yesterday I got notice from my
No, a question. Don't go into any kind of details. If you have a question concerning the conditions of your bond or the
Okay.
conditions,
Yes.
you can call me.
Okay, so don't ask now.
I don't want you to discuss any kind of facts or allegations concerning what happened. What the judge is saying, that you can have a police escort to get your belongings. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. You can ask the jail to give me a call.
Okay. My question now would be, because today is September 7th, so I paid rent for the entire month of September. And also, well, with the leasing office, they gave me a 30-day notice. So what I'm hearing now is different than what they initially told me.
I think he wants to know whether he can stay through the term of his rent.
Right, Your Honor, and that would be, the court said he can't go back there. So I think he acknowledges that they are evicting him, and he just wants to know, can he stay until the end of the month or whatever, the 30-day notice period before he gets out?
No. He has until the end of the month to go there with a police officer to retrieve his belongings. He can bring some of his belongings, all of his belongings, but he's not allowed to live in that premises or remain on the premises. All right. His next court date will be sent to him at his new address. So within 30 days of being released, he must come back to the clerk's office and update the court with his new mailing address.
Your Honor, what was his bond? For some reason, I didn't hear what his bond was.
2,500 signature bonds for pretrial level 2. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Arsenault, did we answer your question?
Partially. I mean, I would still have more questions, but she told me ask them with
You
her.
would have to ask your attorney because you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about your case, your statements can and will be used against you.
So is this the trial or no?
This
is not the trial. This is a bond hearing.
Okay, so I wouldn't ask any more questions or give any more information here, because a lot of what I heard.
You can call me with all your questions, Mr. Arsenault.
Okay.
All right. Next case, please.
Position number 5, Brown.
Come on.
This is Sean Brown. Are you Mr. Brown? Okay. Case number 24CR6332C, accused of simple battery family violence from March 16, 2023. Brown, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
10th arrest, 2019 FTA, 2016 cruelty to children, 3rd-degree conviction. I didn't see the battery being a conviction. 2014 forgery in the 4th-degree conviction. 2010 simple battery conviction. He has a probation hold, according to the booking.
All right. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. In the case manager screen, I did see that battery family violence was a conviction.
All right.
The incident location is 311 Scott Street Southwest, Atlanta. The victim in this case is Nicole Harris, who does share a child with the defendant. The victim told officers that she was asleep in bed with her child when the defendant began talking to her and became upset because she wasn't responding because she was tired. The defendant then started yelling about how he was going to beat her up, snatched her up off the bed, and then attempted to hit her in the face. The victim then told her child to go downstairs to be with his grandma, and the defendant proceeded to hit her multiple times in the leg. Our office has spoken with the victim in this case, who confirmed that her and the defendant were in a relationship and they do have a child, but they do not reside together at this time. She says the incident was a while ago and she's not interested in moving forward with it. She stated they don't have a domestic violence history and she is not afraid of the defendant and she does want contact. You know, since this incident occurred, everything has been fine. Given that I did see that the defendant has a battery conviction in his history, the state's recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond, no further violent contact with the victim, some anger awareness, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for Miss Nicole Harris. I know that she was on earlier. I'm not sure if she's back.
All right, Miss Grace, is she still in the waiting room?
No, she isn't, Judge.
Okay. Miss Badel?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Brown is 34 years old. He's born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been here all his life and his family is here. He has strong ties to the community. He does have a good address at 6711 Church Street, apartment D6. He lives there with his sister. And he does have a GED. He's been self-employed as a barber for 7 years. As you heard from the state, Mr. Brown and Ms. Harris don't have any kind of violent history with each other. She's not currently, they're fine right now. They're on good terms. At this point, we're asking, you know, there were no injuries in this case. And Mr. Brown is presumed innocent. And he denies that the verbal dispute ever got physical. As you heard, the complaining witness in this case is not interested in going forward. So we are asking at this point for it to be actually a signature bond.
Okay. Let me see the status of that. Looks like his probation hearing hasn't been scheduled yet. And it looks like, according to probation, he didn't finish DBIP, he didn't finish his community service, and he didn't attend his last revocation hearing. So presently on the simple battery, it's going to be a $1,500 surety bond. No violent contact with Nicole Harris. He can communicate with her and have contact with her as long as there's no physical or verbal altercation. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no firearms and weapons. And Mr. Brown, you have a probation hold in the case 16 CR 014154E. And this is a probation hold, so you cannot be released until you've had your probation hearing. Thank you.
Number 11, the Spanish interpreter case. Sure.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lucia. Okay, Ms. Lucia, do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be a true and accurate translation with no changes or embellishments?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. This is State versus Andre Late Abui.
Este es el caso de la Fiscalía en contra de Andrés Late Abui.
Late Abui, okay. And the case number is 24 CR 6325E.
El número del caso es el 24 CR 006325E.
Mr. Late Abui is charged with simple battery, family violence, simple battery against a person who is pregnant, and an additional count of simple battery.
El señor Late Abuy está siendo acusado de 3 cargos. El primero es violencia doméstica, el otro es violencia en contra de una persona que está embarazada en el momento de la ofensa, y el tercer cargo es de violencia simple.
You have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you choose to say during this virtual proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you.
Usted tiene el derecho de permanecer en silencio el día de hoy durante esta audiencia. Cualquier cosa que usted diga puede ser y será usada en contra suya.
You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, Ms. Anna Wright will be representing you.
Usted tiene el derecho a tener un abogado. Si usted no puede costear su propio abogado, la defensora pública Anna Wright puede ayudarle para esta audiencia.
What is his criminal record history, if any?
I got first.
Y tenemos a la juez pregunta cualquier récord criminal pasado, y le indican que es la primera vez, primer arresto.
All right. Ms. Reddick, what's the recommendation?
Your Honor, this incident occurred at 2504 Noble Creek Drive, Northwest Atlanta, Fulton County. Officer Jeffrey arrived to the location and observed the victim, Miss Melania, Melania, Engongo, Engongo, lying on the ground outside the apartment with her clothing ripped. She advised.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No
worries. No worries.
Go ahead.
Su señoría, lo que sucedió, esto sucedió en el 2504 de Noble Creek en Northwest, en Atlanta, Georgia. Cuando la gente de policía llegó a esa dirección, encontraron a la señora Melania Engongo tirada en el piso y con la ropa, sin ropa y con la ropa rota.
The victim advised that the defendant had pushed her out of the apartment and struck her, and she was 22 weeks pregnant.
La víctima indicó que el acusado la empujó afuera del departamento y en ese momento estaba embarazada de 22 semanas.
Subsequent conversations with the victim and the detective revealed that the victim and defendant were living together at the location.
Otras conversaciones entre el detective y la víctima indicaban que la víctima y el acusado estaban viviendo juntos en ese lugar, en ese entonces.
We have had communication with the victim, and the baby she was carrying at the time has been delivered and is the defendant.
Hemos tenido comunicación con la víctima, y el bebé que ella del cual estaba embarazada ya ha nacido y le pertenece al acusado.
She also advised our office that this was the second incident of domestic violence that has occurred.
Ella también indicó a nuestra oficina que esta es la segunda vez que ocurre esta violencia doméstica.
We are requesting a total bond of $3,000 surety.
Estamos pidiendo que el bono para que salga bajo fianza sea de $3,000 asegurados.
No further contact with our victim.
No, ningún contacto con la víctima.
Third party contact to arrange visitation with the child.
Contacto por medio de una tercera parte para visitas con el menor, con el niño.
No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
No bebidas alcohólicas, no drogas y no armas mientras está bajo fianza.
One day anger awareness class.
Una clase de un día para manejo de la ira.
Your Honor, our victim is online. I don't know if she wants to be heard or not.
Y la víctima está en la llamada de Zoom. No sabemos si es que ella quiere decir algo en este momento o no.
And she would need the interpreter. Yeah.
Miss Melania Engono?
Señora Melania.
If you want to testify, you would need to unmute and also reposition yourself so the light is not behind you.
Si es que quiere usted hablar, necesita primero moverse de donde está para que la luz no esté atrás suyo y la podamos ver. Y lo segundo que necesita hacer es abrir su micrófono.
You need to unmute, please.
Necesita abrir el micrófono y necesita moverse. ¿De dónde está? Necesita moverse, darse la vuelta para que la luz esté enfrente suyo, no atrás suyo. Tell her about the light, Your Honor.
Right, maybe when she unmutes, then.
Señora, si puede abrir el micrófono, por favor.
My goodness, there's a lot of light.
¿Puede abrir el micrófono usted? No le podemos escuchar si su micrófono está cerrado. Ahí está bien. Oh, ¿en dónde estaban antes? Okay, so she's...
She went outside, but she needs to unmute her phone device so she can be heard.
Señora Melania, no le podemos oír, necesita prender el micrófono de su teléfono. ¿Sabe cómo hacer eso? Necesita, I'm just going to tell her what to do. Necesita tocar el teléfono, la pantalla, y en la esquina inferior izquierda hay un micrófono. Necesita tocar ese micrófono. Ok, ¿ahí me puede oír?
Sí, yo te oigo bien.
Okay, so she can hear me, Your Honor. Is this a good setting for you, or do I want her back inside?
No, she's fine. She just needs to put the phone closer to her face. Raise it up and look at it.
Okay, ponga el teléfono enfrente de su cara, por favor, y permanezca ahí sin moverse. Okay.
Raise the right hand.
Levante su mano derecha. La
Other
otra. Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth?
¿Jura usted que el testimonio que nos va a dar ahorita va a ser la verdad? Solo la verdad y nada más que la verdad bajo palabra de Dios.
Lo juro en el nombre poderoso de Cristo.
I swear.
All right.
Puede bajar su mano.
What would she like to tell us about Mr. Andre Latte Abui?
¿Qué es lo que usted quiere decirle a la juez sobre el señor Andrés Lateabui?
In terms of whether she wants contact with him or whether she's afraid of him.
En cuanto, la pregunta es si es que usted quiere continuar teniendo contacto con él o si es que usted tiene miedo de él.
No tengo miedo de él.
I'm not scared of him. Señora, deje de moverse donde estaba parada, necesita quedarse ahí parada.
Sí, okay.
Just told her to please remain standing.
And does she have anything else to add?
¿Quiere decirnos algo más? ¿Decirle a la juez algo más?
Sí, quería pedir a la jueza que si, como desde estando embarazada, he estado cuidando mi embarazo, hasta hoy día cuidando a mi niña sola. Yo quiero que, además de child support, que me ayude a cuidar a la niña, que la niña puede estar con él, porque no es fácil cuidar a una hija sola aquí en Estados Unidos, y lo hago sola.
Okay.
Y la puedo dejar.
Hasta ahí, solo hasta ahí. Your Honor, the victims, sorry. What I would like the judge to know and to do is that in addition to child support, I would like him to help me take care of the baby because it's very difficult here in the United States to take care of a baby by yourself, and that's what have been doing thus far.
Does she live with him?
¿Vive usted con el señor?
No, desde estando embarazada de un mes hasta hoy día, yo estoy sola con mi hija.
No, since I was 1 month pregnant, up until today, I have been living alone with my daughter.
All right, thank you.
Okay, señora, gracias.
Ms. Wright, anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. My client denies any kind of physical wrongdoing towards Miss Melania. They do have a daughter. He has tried to have contact with her, but she very much controls the situation. He is
Please pause. Thank you.
Y la abogada que le está defendiendo al señor indica que usted niega cualquier contacto físico que haya sido mal o que le haya agredido, eso está negado. Que el señor sí ha tratado de tener contacto desde que nació la bebé. Go ahead, Ms. Wright.
Thank you. She does contact him on a semi-regular basis for financial support, which he does provide.
Ella se comunica con él de forma más o menos regular para pedir dinero, apoyo financiero, lo cual él sí da.
And he is able to see the child only when she allows him to do so.
Y él puede ver a la criatura, a la bebé, solamente cuando ella le da permiso de hacerlo.
I did speak to him in regards to legitimation of the child, and let him know that would provide for responsibilities and rights.
Yo hablé con él para hablarle sobre la legitimación de la bebé, porque eso le concedería a él tanto responsabilidades como derechos.
My understanding is that this incident was over a year ago, and that this is his first arrest.
De lo que yo entiendo es que este incidente ocurrió hace más de un año y este es el primer arresto que él ha tenido.
He was contacted by an investigator in regards to the incident, and was told by the investigator at the time that no charges were filed.
Él se comunicó o con él se comunicó un investigador y en ese entonces el investigador le indicó que cargos no habían sido puestos en contra de él.
Otherwise, he would have turned himself in. This is the first time that he is aware that there were charges against him.
Si es que él hubiera sabido, él se hubiera entregado. Y esta es la primera vez que él se entera, que él sabe que hay acusaciones y cargos en contra de él.
And I am asking that this be a signature bond.
Y también estoy pidiendo que la fianza sea nada más bajo su firma.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The incident apparently occurred on May 19th, 2023, and the warrant for his arrest was taken out on May 31st, 2023. So I'm not sure what was the time frame when he spoke to the officer.
Este incidente ocurrió el 19 de mayo del 2023. La orden de arresto fue fechada el 31 de mayo del 2023. Entonces no estoy segura yo cuándo fue que él habló con el agente de la policía, con el detective.
First, I'm going to address Miss Melania.
Lo primero que quiero hacer, dice la juez, es hablarle a la señora Melania.
Miss Melania, you will have to go to the child support services in the county where you live.
Señora Melania, usted tiene que acercarse a la oficina de servicios de apoyo y manutención a menores en el condado en el que usted viva.
And they will assist you with a petition for child support.
Y ellos le van a ayudar a llenar y a hacer una petición para que sea pagada manutención por su hija.
And you can start the process of getting a court order to require the father of the child to pay child support.
Y usted puede así comenzar el proceso para obtener una orden judicial que requiera al papá que mantenga o pase cierta manutención al menor.
Furthermore, if Mr. Latte Abui files a legitimation action,
si es que el señor Latte Abui hace una acción de legitimación,
you can also request child support through that lawsuit.
También puede usted pedir manutención a menores por medio de ese proceso legal.
This currently is a criminal court and we don't mandate child support.
El tribunal en el que estamos en este momento, señora, es un tribunal criminal. En este tribunal no mandan, no hacen nada sobre manutención a menores.
Unless he is charged with violation of a child support order.
A menos que que el cargo sea una acusación de que él está violando la orden de pagar manutención.
But as a single parent, it is your responsibility to file the appropriate petition.
Como madre soltera, es su responsabilidad, la suya, señora, de que usted llene los formularios y haga esta petición.
Moving on to Mr. Latte Abui.
Ahora, dirigiéndome al señor Latte Abui.
On the simple battery, family violence, that's going to be 500.
Con el cargo de violencia doméstica simple, el primer cargo van a ser $500.
On the simple battery against a person who's pregnant is 4,000.
En la violencia simple en contra de una persona que esté embarazada van a ser $4,000.
And a simple battery is 500.
Y el otro violencia simple van a ser otros $500.
His total bond is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2.
Esta fianza, el total es de $5,000 y es una fianza bajo firma únicamente. Y eso es hecho por medio de la oficina anterior a los juicios de las oficinas judiciales del condado. Es un nivel 2.
He is to report to pretrial services twice a month.
Debe reportarse usted, señor, a esos servicios, a esta oficina de servicios anteriores a los juicios 2 veces por mes.
And he's not to consume any alcohol or illegal drugs or illegal drugs.
Y mientras está bajo fianza, no puede consumir ninguna bebida alcohólica, no puede consumir ninguna droga o estupefaciente y no puede tener ningún arma.
And by law, he's not allowed to own or possess any firearms.
Bajo la ley, usted no puede ni tener ni ser dueño de ningún arma.
No further contact with Miss Melania Njono, or I'm just going to go by the name on the warrant. Njono?
No puede tener contacto con la señora Melania Anjono.
You have to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner.
Debe mantenerse siempre por lo menos 200 yardas alejado de ella. I'm sorry, Your Honor, for the interpreter, can you repeat the communication?
He's not to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner.
Y no puede comunicarse usted con ella de ninguna forma, ni bajo ningún método.
If he wishes to have joint custody or visitation, he must file a legitimation action.
Si es que usted quiere tener visitas con su bebé o quiere ser parte de la vida de ella, necesita usted llenar un proceso legal de legitimación para hacerle legítima.
In this case, I see two people who can't seem to decide how to parent one child.
En este caso, lo que yo observo son dos personas adultas que no pueden llegar a un acuerdo de cómo ser padres de una criatura.
So I recommend getting a court order to establish visitation, custody, and child support.
Entonces, les recomiendo obtengan una corte judicial, la cual establezca custodia, visitas y manutención.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if that concludes my, I think that concludes my service, Your Honor, may I be excused.
Yes, would you mind just making an announcement so that anyone else in courtroom 2 needs a Spanish interpreter?
Yes, Your Honor. Señores, si es que están en el perdón, si es que están en la cárcel, en la sala número 2 y necesitan un intérprete en español para su proceso judicial, esta audiencia el día de hoy, por favor, párese. Levanten su mano.
Courtroom 2, does anybody else need a Spanish interpreter?
No.
Okay, Miss Lucia, you have a great weekend. See you next week.
Yes, Your Honor. May I let Miss Melania know that she can
Yes,
leave?
please. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Señora Melania, puede ya retirarse, ya se acabó la audiencia para el señor. Puede ya apagar y salir del Zoom.
Gracias.
Okay, Your Honor, have a good weekend.
You too, thank you. Courtroom 2, what do we have?
Position number 9, Mr. Johnson.
This is State versus Kaylin Johnson, accused of battery and disorderly conduct from September 6, 2024. His case number is 24 CR 6324H. Mr. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Miss Bader, Miss Wright. Who is Mr. Kaylin Johnson's attorney?
That is a conflict, Your Honor. I think
Miss Grace, can you remove Melania Ange from the Zoom, please? Thank you. All right. Miss McLeod, is this by any chance your client, Kaylin Johnson?
Your Honor.
Okay. Kaylin Johnson, that's your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. Mr. Johnson's been advised of his case number and his charges. Any priors with regards to Mr. Johnson?
8th arrest, a history out of Tennessee. 2024 trespass, 2024 violation of protection order, 2016 FTA, 2016 theft of property conviction, 2015 reckless endangerment conviction, and he might be homeless. I'm not sure. That's all.
Okay. Miss Reddick?
Your Honor, in addition to that history, I have some things out of South Carolina. Criminal damage to property in 2022, aggravated assault and battery in 2022, and the damage to property in 2023 out of South Carolina. We would agree with pretrial services that he may be unhoused. Your Honor, this incident occurred at 275 Prior Street, the Gateway Center in Atlanta. Officers responded and were advised by the security officer there, Mr. Schultz, that the defendant had been outside. Defendant and a victim, Mr. Edward Dennis, had been outside fighting. The security officer observed the defendant strike the victim in the back of the head with a stick. The victim, Mr. Dennis, advised law enforcement that he was in fact struck twice by the defendant. When the officer spoke with the defendant, he advised that he was outside the location, upset and yelling profanities. When the victim and another man approached him, asking him to stop, the defendant then grabbed the stick and struck the victim in the back of the head as he was walking away. Officers noted that the victim had a bleeding cut on his head. This case, Your Honor, the state is reasonably conflicted because the individual was at the Gateway House, and the court is aware why individuals go to that location. So we don't want to tell him to stay away from services he may need. However, we don't want him to have contact with the victim. We don't want him to have any drugs, alcohol, weapons while he was out on bond. We are concerned with whether or not counsel can make a suggestion as to where this defendant could go to get his services. So we would defer to the court on any bond.
All right. Ms.
Yes.
McLeod, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. My client tells me that there's somewhere called Kalanji at Sweet Auburn. I tried looking for it on the internet. I was not able to find it, but he suggested to me that it was sort of an alternative place that he might be able to live, because the state is correct that he is homeless. He's currently unemployed. He actually tells me he was working with the Atlanta Works, I believe it was called. He was on a team working, and he alleges that he was attacked by these three men, including the alleged victim. And he was just responding in self-defense after he had been attacked by 3 of them. So my client is definitely, he needs some help because he is totally unhoused, as Ms. Reddick puts it. And of course, he would not be able to pay for a bond or anything.
All right. On the battery, it's going to be $1,000. The disorderly conduct is $500. This is a surety bond. No further contact with Edward Dennis, to stay away from 275 Prior Street at the Gateway facility. And his next court date is going to be September 19th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position number 5, Mr. Crane.
I've got it as 6. Would that Ricky Crane? Is that your name?
Position number 6, I'm sorry.
That's okay. This is Ricky Anthony Crane, accused of criminal trespass from September 6th of this year. Case number is 24 CR 6333C. Mr. Crane, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Any price?
22. Last arrest was in June. Trespass. 24 CR 003 809C. That was SOB jail. And that 2023 trespass, possession of drug related objects conviction. Another 2023 trespass, 2012 trespass NOD, 2012 trespass conviction. That's all.
Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at 1030 White Oak Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of trespassing on the property of Fortune Utomwen after previously being told he was not allowed on the property. Officers did make contact with the defendant while he was in front of the victim's yard. The defendant was aware that he was violating a bond order not to be within 200 yards of the home. The victim stated that the defendant also damaged her front door. The defendant was given a criminal trespass warning on May 29th, 2024 of this year. His June 2024 criminal trespass is the same victim's same location. As you heard, he was given an SOB jail, told to stay away and to have no further contact with Peter Otomwen, who I believe is Miss Fortune's husband. When we spoke to Peter back in June, he stated that the defendant continues to violate bond orders and that he came to the property and began saying things to the victim that he wasn't even comfortable repeating. He also stated that the defendant got in his wife Fortune's face and began saying awful things about her and then told the victim to stay away from his wife. Given the fact that the defendant is in violation of that 24 CR bond order, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond. This will now be the 3rd time that the defendant has gone to this property after being told to stay away. So there is, of course, the concern that he will reoffend and the concern that he will intimidate these victims. No further contact with either Fortune Otomwen or Peter Otomwen. Of course, stay away from the incident location. The state's also going to recommend an MHET or a BHET. Given his behavior, there is now concern that there might be something else going on here. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for both victims, Fortune and Peter Otomwen.
Mr. and Mr. Tomlin, if you are on Zoom, you're free to unmute and start your video. Okay, Ms. Bader?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Crane is 53 years old. I understand that he has allegedly appeared at this address. He's currently just charged with a criminal trespass. However, he has indicated to me that he does have a good address at 1150 Tucker Place. That's in Atlanta, Georgia, 30310. His grandmother, his mother, and his niece live there. It is his grandmother's house. So he can live there, receive notice for court there. He does have work cutting grass in that neighborhood. Judge, he
he is willing to not return to the location, have no further contact with either of the complaining witnesses. As I stated, he is charged with criminal trespass. This is a nonviolent offense. The pretrial services did a public safety assessment for Mr. Crane, and did determine that the recommendation would be a UJR level 3. So we would echo that recommendation and ask for a signature bond through pretrial level 3.
Bond is set at 1,500. It is a surety bond. To stay 500 yards away, this is not now 200, this is 500 yards away. That's the length of 5 football fields from the location in question, which will be the same location in the previous case. Let me see. To have no further contact with Peter Otomwin and Fortune Otomwin. The location is 1030 White Oak Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. And his next court date is going to be September 19th. And Miss Bridgewater, we are going to reset both cases to September 19th, which could be this current one, as well as his prior one. And are you ready for the case number?
I am.
24 CR 003809C.
Have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next case, please.
Number 7, Harris.
This is State versus Desmond Harris, accused of criminal trespass from March 24, 2023. Mr. Harris, you have been accused of criminal trespass, 24 CR 6334A. You have been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. Would you like pretrial to go over the
Oh, I'm
history?
so sorry. Did I skip pretrial, Mr. Howard? I'm so sorry. It was
It's
totally okay. Go ahead.
30 plus, 2021 out of Alabama, possession of marijuana, 2021 FTA, 2019 probation, 2019 attempted crime conviction, 2018 FTA, 2016 theft. He got theft history. He wanted out of DeKalb County for assault, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. And the defendant's 30 plus arrest cycles are out of 6 different states. This incident occurred March 24th, 2023 at 631 Garibaldi Street Southwest. Officers were called to the incident location by Summer Good, who shares a child with the defendant. However, the incident location is the residence of Ms. Good's friend, Kiara Patterson. The defendant came to Ms. Patterson's home to pick up the child that he shares with Ms. Good, and when she refused to open the door, the defendant became irate and repeatedly kicked the door, causing damage to the front door frame. The incident was caught on ring camera, and the defendant is seen on the camera for over an hour, causing commotion in the neighborhood. The state's recommendation, based on the defendant's very lengthy criminal history, is a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with Kiara Patterson, stay away from the incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for Kiara Patterson if she is on the Zoom.
Kiara Patterson? All right. I have an iPhone on the Zoom. You've been instructed to start your video. All right. Ms. Grace, can you place the iPhone in the breakout room, please? In the waiting room, sorry, in the waiting room.
Okay, Judge.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Bader?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Harris is 31 years old. He does have a good address with his father, Robert Jenkins, at 4555 Washington Road, apartment 19M. He has been in Atlanta. He's born and raised in Atlanta. He does have 2 sons, one of which lives with him. And he owns a business called Cheat Code Records, and he's also been working at Chase Global Constructions for about 10 years now. This warrant is from almost a year and a half ago. The date on the warrant is March 24th, 2023. He's alleged to have kicked a door frame. He has no problem having a no contact with the complaining witness in this case. The complaining witness is a friend of the mother of his child. Judge, at this point, we are asking for a signature bond. He has a job, he has children, he has a good address where he can receive notice. He has no reason and doesn't intend on contacting the complaining witness in this case. I understand he has a hold into cab. However, ultimately, his goal is to get back to work and get back to his children and live with his dad.
Okay. Bond is set at $1,000 surety with a release to the DeKalb County hold. No contact with Kiara Patterson and stay 200 yards away from 631 Garibaldi Street in Southwest Atlanta. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Position number 8, Mr. Howard.
Jonathan, did you say, is it Jonathan Herring? Is that your name?
Yes, that's him.
Okay. Jonathan Herring is accused of battery, family violence, terroristic threats and acts, a misdemeanor, willful obstruction of an officer, and disorderly conduct. This stems from a September 6, 2024 incident under accusation number 24 CR 6327G. Mr. Herring, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Ms. Badair. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Third, 2019 driving without a valid license. That's it.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Frances Lay, who is the defendant's sister. The victim and the defendant's girlfriend had gotten into a verbal dispute, and the defendant went to confront the victim about it. During the confrontation, the defendant struck the victim in the face, causing a piece of her tooth to come loose and subsequently be swallowed. He also scratched the victim on the arm, which caused a cut to her arm. The defendant had been living with the victim in the victim's garage, according to the warrant. When officers arrived at the location, they observed the defendant shouting and acting out of control while trying to get his property out of his sister's home. At one point, the defendant walked up to the victim while the police were there in a threatening manner, and officers had to handcuff him. While they were handcuffing him, the defendant kept refusing the officers' commands to place his hands behind his back. After he was detained, he proceeded to yell to his sister that he would kill her, again in the presence of officers. Our office has spoken with the victim, Ms. Lay, who states that she does reside at that location and the defendant no longer resides there. They don't have a domestic violence history. She, of course, confirmed the events in the warrant, and she stated that she wants no further contact and for the defendant to stay away from her residence. The state's recommendation, based on the concerning nature of these facts, is a $2,000 surety bond on the battery and a $500 surety bond on the remaining counts of terroristic threats, disorderly conduct, and willful obstruction. It's really concerning that he would act in this violent manner towards his sister while the police were there. So what is he going to do when the police aren't there? No further contact with the victim. Of course, stay away from the incident location. I think some anger awareness would be beneficial for the defendant, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Ms. Patel?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I want to talk a little bit about the facts of this case. So at the time, Mr. Herring and his girlfriend and the mother of his child were living with his sister, Miss Lay, and it was the two of them who were in a verbal altercation. Mr. Herring and the mother of his child and girlfriend, they have 4 children under the age of 10 together, who were also with them at the time. And she is pregnant and was pregnant during this verbal altercation. So
At this point in time, Mr. Herring does deny any allegations that he put his hands on anyone. However, there was a verbal altercation, and at that point, you know, there's no history, there's no criminal history at all besides the driving with with a suspended license for Mr. Herring. At this point in time, we have no objection to the no further contact with his sister. We have no objection to a stay away from the incident location. But based on the fact that he has no history, the fact that his sister was in an argument with his girlfriend who was pregnant at the time, and still is, Your Honor, we're asking for a signature bond. And the pretrial services also, from their safety assessment, recommended a UJR through the jail for Mr. Herring, and we believe that that was the correct determination.
Okay. I see an Angel Herring on the Zoom. Did she want to communicate or participate in this hearing? All right, thank you. On the battery family violence, that's going to be a $1,000 surety. On the terroristic threats, that's going to be a $1,000 surety. The willful obstruction and disorderly conduct, each is going to be $500, and that's going to be a signature bond through the jail. His total bond is going to be a $3,000 split bond. No further contact with Francis Lay, to stay away from the property in question, which is 1105 Pine Tree Trail in Atlanta, Georgia. He's allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to remove his belongings without any breach of peace. That visit cannot exceed 60 minutes or 1 hour. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And his next court date is going to be September 19th. Thank you.
Position 12, Miller.
This is State versus Umi Chuma Miller, accused of simple battery family violence. Hang on, then count 2 is simple battery. Count 3 is willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Then we have disorderly conduct, simple assault family violence, and simple assault. That's a total of 6 misdemeanor charges stemming from Christmas Eve of 2022. Oh, sorry. Well, it looks like it was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day of 2022. Mr. Miller, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wright. Any
8 total.
8 cycles, okay.
On probation, not a card. Look like they got 2 counts of ag assault conviction. In April of this year, they gave him 10 years probation for that and a false imprisonment. 2016 FTA probation, 2014 battery DB conviction, 2013 affray conviction. That's all.
Ms. Reddick?
Your Honor, this incident, as you stated correctly, these incidents occurred on Christmas Eve 2022 and Christmas Day of 2022. On Christmas Day, officers responded to 21 Cedar Run North in Sandy Springs. The defendant answered the door. Law enforcement asked him if there had been any domestic indications or issues at the home as they received the 911 call. The defendant said no. The officer saw the victim, Miss Yemi, Y-E-M-I, Osborne, O-S-B-O-R-N-E, standing behind the defendant, and she indicated that there had been incidents. Officers had Miss Osborne step out. She expressed safety concerns, and so the officer closed the door so he could speak with her. When she stepped outside, she indicated that on Christmas Eve, the defendant became intoxicated, yelled at her, and threw a knife at her. And then on Christmas Day, she advised that he came outside to speak with her, placed his hand in his jacket, and then punched her in the face with the hand in the jacket under her left eye. At the time of the incidents, the defendant and the victim actually lived together at the Cedar Run location. Again, the defendant does have a high risk of reoffending. He currently has an outstanding warrant out of Morrow, Georgia, in addition to being on bond for aggravated assault. We are asking in this, and he does have a 2016 FTA. We are asking for a total of $8,000 on this case, $4,000 each charge. No further contact with Miss Yemi Osborne. Anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons while on bond.
Ms. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor. My understanding is, like the state had said, this was about 2 years ago. They do have 2 sons together. From speaking to Mr. Miller, he indicated that they do have a successful co-parenting relationship. She is currently in a relationship. He's in a different relationship as well. He's also in HVAC school, and has a full-time job with AutoZone. His fiance is a nurse with Piedmont. The way that this arrest came about was that he called officers to come in regards to a car that was in the parking lot of AutoZone. He had no idea there were warrants out for his arrest. I'm asking that Your Honor consider a $5,000 bond on this case. Like I said, he's trying to move forward. This case is from 2 years ago. I have not personally had a chance to speak with the complaining witness. I'm not sure if the state has, but that is my understanding, is that they are successfully co-parenting their 2 children in separate locations.
Okay. On the simple battery family violence, that's going to be $1,000 surety. The remaining charges are going to be $500 each. Total bond is $3,000 surety. Next court date is September 19th. No further contact with Yemi Osborne, and no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. If he makes bond, this will be a release to the Morrow Police Department hold.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 13, Reed.
This is State versus Russell Antoine Reed, accused of battery, family violence, cruelty in the 3rd degree, and battery from July 10th, 2024. Mr. Reed, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and counsel, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wright. Any priors, please?
Third arrest, 2021 probation. That's all.
Is that a felony or misdemeanor probation?
Let me look it up.
Okay. Ms. Reddick?
Your Honor, this incident is alleged to have occurred on July 10th, 2024 at 1197 Arlington Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. Officers responded to above location. They spoke with the defendant's wife at the time, Miss Waverly, Wavely, Anton, Antione, as well as the minor teenage daughter that was living in the house. Initials Z as in zebra, A as in apple. It was actually the minor child that called 911 when she heard the altercation between her parents. And when officers presented, they determined that the defendant had struck the victim with a broomstick, leaving bruising and marks on her. We have had contact with Miss Antoine. She does not want the defendant to return. They have not been living together since this incident. She wants no further contact with the defendant, third-party contact to have him engage with the daughter. She is 15. 1 day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while on bond. Our total bond for us would be $7,500, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, how much?
7500, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor. Like the state indicated, they no longer live together. He does have direct contact with his daughter. They talk about every couple of weeks. I am asking for a signature bond on this case. He does have a good full-time job. He's not at a risk to reoffend or intimidate, or not return to court. That would be my ask, Your Honor.
All right. On the battery family violence, that's going to be 2,500. The cruelty is going to be 500, and the battery is going to be 1,000. A total would be $4,000. It's going to be a signature bond for pretrial services, level 2. No further contact with Waverly Antoine, and I'll allow for third-party contact with the child he shares with Miss Antoine. Furthermore, Mr. Reed, within 30 days of being released, you will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. This is a 24-week program. You'll be required to enroll in that program as a condition to your bond. So by your second or third visit with pretrial, you must show proof of enrollment, and then thereafter you must have regular attendance of those weekly classes. When you complete the program, you must produce the certificate to your pretrial officer. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Your Honor, will you go back over those bond amount, please?
Sure. 2,500 on the battery family violence, 500 on cruelty, and 1,000 on battery. Total of 4,000.
Thank you.
Number 15, Smith.
All right. Do we have a Shannon Singleton in there? No?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Mr. Jonathan Smith is accused of battery and simple assault from March 22nd of this year under case number 24CR 6336J. Mr. Smith, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Ms. Wright.
13.
I'm so sorry. It's not.
Me, Your Honor.
It's
Oh, Ms. McLeod? Okay. No
Yes,
problem.
Your Honor.
I'm sorry. Ms. McLeod is Maureen McLeod is Mr. Smith's attorney. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
13. Got an open cruise in the first simple battery. 23 SC 187356. Couple of probation violations from this year, 2 from last year. 2023 simple battery DV trespass. 2023 unauthorized discharge of a firearm. 2017 battery DV dismissed. That's it.
Ms. Reddick? I'm sorry, you need to unmute.
And I was just talking away, Judge.
That's all right.
To add clarity to the open felony case, the victim in that case is the minor child of the victim in this case. And it is a cruelty in the first degree. Your Honor, on March 22nd, 2024 at 51, well, not at 51990 National Highway. It was actually at the Walmart, but when law enforcement responded, they actually responded to the Bank of America at 51990 National Highway. They met with a Miss Tonia, Tonia, Wentworth, Wentworth, who advised that she had been sitting in the Walmart parking lot with a defendant who had passed out. She asked him to contact someone in his family to come and pick him up because she could not take him home. He became irate at her saying this and punched her in the face. Then he began yelling at the victim as he exited the vehicle and tried to damage her vehicle. The victim stated she moved from the Walmart parking lot to the Bank of America to get away from the defendant because she was afraid he would continue to try to harm her. Officers noted swelling on the victim's right eye. Again, he has an open pending felony case that involves the victim's child. We are asking on this case a total bond of $10,000 surety, no further contact with the victim, stay away from the Walmart on Old National, as well as the Bank of America on Old National, anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond.
Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client was released from Clayton County Jail to Fulton County. He tells me he was in Clayton County Jail on a probation revocation. He stayed there for the past 6 months. So he's been locked up for the past 6 months. He has absolutely no money to pay bond. I would ask the court to consider giving him a signature bond for the jail, and I'm going to explain why. He tells me that he has some pretty significant illnesses for which he has been taking medication while he was in jail in Clayton County. He tells me right now, essentially, he has some issues with his hand. He has a specific disease, which I don't want to call out here, which requires him to take medication all the time. And he needs to go out where he can actually have medical supervision, Your Honor. Of course, he cannot pay for bond. He's been locked up for half a year at least. So barring a signature bond, he's just going to sit in jail. He tells me that he doesn't really have anyone that can bond him out. He also tells me that Miss Wentworth and himself, they don't share any children, and they have not been in a relationship for some considerable time. So I would ask the court to take all of his circumstances into consideration. He also tells me that the incident, he does not recall that incident at all, where it's alleged that he punched her in the eye.
Well, the allegation was that he was intoxicated and passed out, so that wouldn't be surprising. My question is, so she does not live with him and doesn't have any children. Did she just happen to be in the same car with him?
Had a relationship previously, and at one point they had lived together. But at the time of this alleged incident, I believe they had already stopped living together, and they do not share children.
Okay, understood. On the battery charge is going to be $1,500, and on the simple assault is $500. His total bond is $2,000. That's the surety bond. No further contact with Tonya Wentworth, and to stay away from where she lives, so where she's physically standing or where she works. And his next court date is going to be September 19th. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and and definitely no firearms. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And that concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. You too, Your Honor.
Who do we have, please?
Position number 14, Singleton.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get to the right page. Here we go. Shannon Singleton is accused of simple battery family violence from July 5th, 2024, and the accusations 24 CR 6338E. Singleton, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Miss Wright. Any priors, please?
10 total. 2022 possession of marijuana. NOLO. 2011 simple assault conviction. 2010 afraid conviction. I was told there was no bond on the felony charges in felony court, but 5,000 good on the misdemeanor charges. Yeah.
Okay. Miss Reddick?
Your Honor, the felony case is 24 PI 006548. In that case, this defendant is alleged to have pointed a weapon at our victim in our current case. Our case occurred on July 5th, 2024. The incident location was 3743 Amber Road, Northwest in Atlanta, Fulton County. Officers responded to the above location and met with a Miss Natasha Stroud. Ms. Stroud advised officers that she had arrived home late from a cookout the previous day. When she got to the house, the defendant was upset with her that she arrived in an inebriated state. He put his hands around her throat and pushed her into a closet. She had to grab on to something inside the closet for support as she began to shake and feel herself falling. Her minor child was present for this. And this occurred before the felony case. Your Honor, we believe that there is a very high danger of intimidation by this defendant of this victim. They were living together at the time of the offense. And so, Your Honor,
yes,
with this case, the state is asking for a $10,000 bond, no further contact with the victim, and no weapons, guns, or alcohol while on bond. We would be also asking that he engage in a family violence intervention program class.
Okay, Ms. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor. This case is peculiar. The complaining witness is 45 years old. My client is 31. They had a short relationship where my client was very much under her control. He broke it off, and she has been stalking him ever since. My understanding is that one of his friends actually has a TPO against her because while my client was staying with said friend, she would continue to show up even when Mr. Singleton wasn't present. This is a very complicated situation. What I understand from the felony as well is that it was Ms. Stroud's daughter's boyfriend who actually shot at Mr. Singleton. But when there are several people all in the same party, the officer is going to likely believe the group of people and not the one true victim in the case. And I understand that. I understand that we have to work through that in discovery. What I am going to say is that my client is very traumatized. He is very disturbed. He has been trying to start a new life away from Ms. Stroud for a really long time. And she continues to find him and make things very difficult. With the felony being no bonded, it makes our bond a little bit less urgent. But I am going to ask Your Honor to consider Mr. Singleton's side of the story in assessing his bond.
$1,500 surety, no further contact with Natasha
Your
Stroud.
Honor, one moment. Our victim is actually in the waiting room and would like to be heard, Judge.
Who is she?
Miss Natasha Stroud.
Is she in the waiting room? I didn't know. I put an iPhone in the waiting room. Is that her?
I believe that's her, Judge.
Oh, okay. I have another one here, Fab, F-A-B. Could you please unmute and start your video?
Oh, hi there. I was
Yes.
just waiting to hear on Umi.
Start your video?
Oh, sorry. I don't look appropriate. I can get all. I was just told to go on here to listen about Umi Miller.
We've already addressed that case. You're free to go.
Oh, could I know what happened or no? Or
You can call the prosecutors. Free to go.
okay. Thank you.
I cannot speak to you. I cannot see a video. So that's why. All right, let's bring the other person in on, I'm assuming that's Ms. Stroud. All right, that's a pretty picture of the ceiling. Then you need to unmute.
I'm here.
All right, Ms. Stroud, are you Natasha Stroud?
Yes, ma'am.
Your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
What would you like to tell us?
Well, actually, I don't even want to press charge. I just really want my car and he can just live his life. I don't care. I don't want nothing else to do with this because it done stressed me out to the point where I had to move out my house. I don't have transportation for kids.
You want no contact with Shannon Singleton, correct?
No, and I don't want him coming nowhere near my mother's house.
Okay, and is that where you live?
That's where I'm at now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, you may mute your screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Bond is set at 1,500. It's a surety bond. Next court date is September 19. He is to have no further contact with Natasha Stroud, stay away from her residence, from her mother's residence, as well as wherever Miss Stroud happens to be physically located. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 3,
Hmm.
Barn.
Is, and who's representing Mr. Dwayne Barnum?
Miss Bader, I believe, Your Honor.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
All right. This is State versus Dwayne Barnum, 24 CR 6330H, accused of willful obstruction of an officer and criminal trespass. And this is from August 7th of 2024. Mr. Barnum, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Ayameter. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
49.
49, okay.
2023 probation, 2023 disorderly conduct, 2022 terrorist threats, disorderly conduct, indicted. 2022 simple battery, couple of probations, one from 2022, one from 2021. 2020 simple battery, 2019 terrorist threats, simple battery conviction.
Then that's good. Thank you. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor, and I didn't hear pre-trial. I don't know if they mentioned it, but he does have 11 arrest cycles out of Florida as well. This incident occurred at 266 First Drive. That's FERST in Atlanta. That is a Georgia Tech building. The defendant is accused of trespassing on this property. He had previously been criminally trespassed in 2007 and 2008. He remained on the property from August 5th to August 7th. And Miss Dolores Mills, who is an employee at Georgia Tech, had asked him to leave the premises on August 5th, but the defendant obviously refused, and he was found in the building on the 7th, kneeling on the ground with his shoes off. When the officer introduced herself, the defendant began to charge at her in an aggressive manner and would not comply with the officer's commands that he stop. The defendant yelled at the officer, asking her what she was going to do, and then hit a trash can towards her and continued to disobey her commands. He eventually had to be tasered and then attempted to get up as the officer was detaining him. The state's recommendation on this case is going to be a $500 surety bond on each count, stay away from all Georgia Tech campuses, no further contact with Dolores Mills, no further violent contact with the officer in this case, Christine Deanne, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. I think a social worker visit might be appropriate for this defendant, but I will let his public defender speak more to that.
Well, he gave you the 2 thumbs up, so let's see. Ms. Barder?
Yes, Your Honor. We don't oppose the bond conditions. We would ask for the bond to be a signature bond through pretrial level 3. And we also wouldn't oppose a mental health evaluation and to follow any recommended treatment.
Okay. On the obstruction is going to be 500. On the criminal trespass is 1,000. Total bond is 1,500. That's a surety bond. To stay away from all Georgia Tech property, no contact with Dolores Mills, and no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And with respect to an evaluation, Ms. Bader, you would have to work with your office or with Mr. Paul Bartel to get a social worker and see if an evaluation is required.
Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Okay. Its next court date is September 19th. Courtroom 2, you need to unmute. Mr. Barno, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. Highly recommend you don't say anything until you get a chance to speak with your attorney.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else, Deputy?
No, ma'am. Oh, position number 10, Ms. Jones. Gonna be a reset.
All right, this will be reset to Monday, September 9th. Is it a medical reset or she just refused to come?
Refuse. It's just, I think it's a little bit of both. MH going on with.
Okay.
And I'm going to reach out. I'm going to reach out to Mr. Bartel as well. I think she needs to be evaluated. We still have Miss Mackey, right?
Miss Mackey
I
was
think she went to
found-
felony.
She wasn't on the minutes to be in the calendar. She went to felony.
Khaleesi is the first name?
Yes.
We upgraded that to felonies.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick.
Okay. Thank you. Position number 1, Allen was a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Position 2 is a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial level 2. Position 3 is a $1,500 surety, reset September 19th. Position 4, Brown is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Position 5, Brown is a $1,500 surety bond, reset to February 19th, and he's got a probation hold as well. Position 6, Crane is a $1,500 surety, and that's reset to September 19th, along with his other case ending in 3809C. Position 7, Harris is a $1,000 surety bond, reset date September 19th. Position 8, Herring is a $3,000 split bond, reset September 19th. Position 9, Johnson is a $1,500 surety bond, reset date is February 19th.
Your Honor, are you saying February or September?
Did I say February? I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep going back to February. September 19th. Okay. Position 10, Quinetta Jones is reset to Monday, September 9th at 2 p.m. This is not a Riverside issue. Position 11, Lotte Abui is a $5,000 signature bond to pretrial level 2.
Hey,
Position
what's that contact?
no contact with,
No contact. Thank you.
what was her name?
11.
Yeah, position 11. I didn't.
Yeah, I remember she was on. I don't need a name.
Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about Melania and
No, I'm talking about Yemi Osborne, I think.
okay, what's the defendant's name, Judge?
This was our Spanish interpreter case.
So that a buoy, the victim in that case is Melania,
Melania. Okay.
Melia Ngongo, Engongo.
Okay. Thank you very much. Position 12, Miller. That was a
$3,000.
$3,000 surety bond, reset date to September 19th. And that victim was, I believe, Miss Osborne or Yenny Osborne. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, position 13, Reed is a $4,000 surety bond. No, signature bond through pretrial, level 1.
Level 2.
I have level 2.
Okay, level 2. And this is the one I required a DVIP within 30 days. Singleton was a $1,500 surety bond, reset date February 19th. And 15, Jonathan Smith is a $2,000 surety bond, reset February 19th. And 16, Asia Young is a 3,500 signature bond pretrial level 2. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, other than those minor hiccups, I think I got it relatively right. So on that note, everyone, enjoy your weekend and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you, Your
Judge.
Honor. You too.
Bye-bye.